What's up, everybody? It's Nick here, and this is your second stimulus check stimulus package update video. We've got lots of news to cover in this video, but before we do that, I want to quickly invite you to hit the subscribe button below right now, turn the bell notification icon on so that you don't miss any of my update videos on the second stimulus check and the stimulus package. Now, with that out of the way, let's get straight into today's news. Last Tuesday, the Washington Post reported that the Senate Republican Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had warned the White House in a closed-door meeting not to strike a deal with Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House and lead negotiator for the Democrats, because of two reasons. He said, number one, he believes that Nancy Pelosi is stringing the Republicans along without any intention to sign onto a broad relief package before the election. And then number two, he said that passing a broad stimulus deal could get in the way of confirming Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. Then on Wednesday, the Senate Democrats blocked a vote in the Senate on Republicans' $500 billion skinny stimulus bill 2.0. On the Senate floor, Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer suggested that the skinny stimulus bill 2.0 was just a charade.
The truth is, the Republican leader needed that vote to fail, because if the Senate actually proceeded to a real bill, it might mess up the timing of the Republican plan to confirm Judge Barrett to the Supreme Court. Now think of that for a moment. The Republican majority sets up a fake vote on COVID relief because if, God forbid, the Senate actually considered a real bill to do something real about this overwhelming COVID crisis, it might delay their Supreme Court nominee that they are rushing through in a process that can only be declared as abusive to the Senate.
Meanwhile, the Secretary of Treasury, Stephen Mnuchin, and Nancy Pelosi continued negotiating a broader relief package while all of this was happening on the Senate floor. During an interview that same day, the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, gave an update on the White House's stimulus negotiations with Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats.
First on COVID relief, is this real, or are you chasing a unicorn on this deal?
Well, we've been obviously engaged with Speaker Pelosi for a long time. Secretary Mnuchin and Speaker Pelosi, I believe, are talking as I'm talking to you and your viewers right now. I spoke to the president, spoke to Secretary Mnuchin over the last hour as we start to try to identify all the remaining issues that stand in the way of getting help to the American people. We've entered a new phase where we're actually looking at some of the technical language.
Meadows also said that while the White House has been advancing the negotiations further and further to Nancy Pelosi's side of the ledger, he complained that Nancy Pelosi's moves have been small so far to date.
The president's willing to lean into this, and if we see any amount of fair negotiations from Speaker Pelosi, which we haven't really seen to date, it's actually been Secretary Mnuchin and the president advancing this negotiation further and further to Nancy Pelosi's side of the ledger. But I can tell you that at $1.9 trillion, which is really where we're at right now, when you look at $1.9 trillion, is Nancy Pelosi really going to tell the American people that I'm not going to send that relief to you just for political reasons? And I don't think our chances get better after election. I do think the next 24 to 48 hours will tell us a whole lot.
Okay, so you're saying she's not moving, but you're giving in on the negotiating side. That's what I hear from you. Yes or no on that?
Well, yes, that's correct.
Right.
She's made very small
Here's what it
concessions.
appears to be. And am I wrong? It just seems like it's BS. It just seems like each side's given cover to get past the next debate, maybe even past this election, and that's when the rubber will hit the road. Am I wrong about that?
I think you're wrong on that, Bill, only from this standpoint. As we started out at $1 trillion, we went to 1.3, we went to 1.5, 1.6. We're now at 1.9 trillion. At some point, Speaker Pelosi has to take yes for an answer. I can tell you there were a number of things that she said, if you only deal with this, we'll be able to move forward. So we said yes to that, only to find out that the goalpost moved once again. And so I'm encouraging her and certainly all the rank and file Democrats to take yes for an answer. Let's get help going to the American people.
Then on Thursday, Nancy Pelosi appeared on Morning Joe to discuss the stimulus negotiations that she was having with Stephen Mnuchin. Pelosi was asked what she would say to all of the people who are suffering, need relief now, and aren't interested in the political fight over stimulus.
And what do you say to all those people who I know you hear from in your own district who are really suffering and aren't interested in the political fight but want to save their small business or their family and they need some money in their pocket as soon as possible?
I say help is on the way. It will be better. It will be bolder. It will be safer, and it will be retroactive. But the fact is that while we can't correct everything in one bill, we shouldn't be making matters worse. And that's what the Republicans have been doing, making matters worse. So in our legislation, we're coming closer to what we must do: crush the virus, honor our heroes, our state and local governments, healthcare workers, transportation, sanitation, teachers, police and fire, first responders who make our system work. And they risk their lives to save lives, and now they may lose their jobs. And you heard the president's irresponsible, really stupid tweet that he did again. Well, need I characterize his tweets? That seems to be standard fare. But the fact is that we have to do that if we're going to have the healthcare people in work, the teachers in place, and the rest to get the job done. And then, of course, to put money in the pockets of the American people. My view is the president has only wanted to be able to send out that check. But one check is not the solution to this. We have to have ongoing, and that's one of the debates we're having right now, is earned income tax credit, child tax credit, things to lift people out of poverty. 6 to 8, depending on the numbers you follow, million people have fallen into poverty, back into poverty, as the CARES Act benefits wear off. We have to restore that. One check doesn't do it. We'd rather, it's like I'm sending you a fish instead of I'm setting you up to fish.
Pelosi was then asked whether she thinks there will be a deal before the election. Here's what she had to say.
Do you think there'll be a deal before Election Day, Speaker Pelosi?
Well, it would be my hope. We could do it in the House. You hear what the leader in the Senate is saying, but that's really up to the president. We're negotiating with him. We've made progress, and I have to say we've made progress in this regard, but we're still not there. But we can be. We can be. And, we know, our members know how people are suffering. That's who we represent. That's what our fight is about. You should see the fight we had to get food. To get food, it was a fight. So understand, we don't share values. So it's a harder discussion than usual. But I'm still optimistic because I think both sides want to come to agreement. Otherwise, why would we even be talking to each other? I mean, this is not, shall we say, an enjoyable conversation. But in any event, it's necessary to have.
Right. Later that same morning, Nancy Pelosi addressed stimulus negotiations in her weekly press conference. Pelosi was asked about the possibility of putting a broad stimulus package to a vote in the House next week. Here's what she said.
It takes time, because this is not slamming down what time we're going to have dinner next week. This is about establishing a plan to crush a virus, to honor our heroes, to put money in the pockets of the American people, and do so in a way that does not harm our children, but in fact improves it. So it can happen. It's up to them. It's really up to them. And when people say, take the deal, there was no deal. What deal? Was the deal one-sided? Take their bill? No, it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible. It didn't crush the virus. It didn't do any of the things it was supposed to do. So I'm pretty happy, not happy, I'm pleased at where we are now. And if we can resolve some of these things in the next few days, it'll take a while to write the bill. I had hoped that that we could be writing starting now, and we are putting pen to paper in certain easier parts of the bill, but it's close. It's close. And the question is, where will the president be at any given moment? He's been all over the map, all over the lot. But I think that we have gotten them to a good place to agree, especially on crushing the virus. This is a major, major advance. Yes.
Pelosi confirmed, however, that the parties have still not agreed on state and local funding and the liability shield that the Republicans in the Senate have been pushing for. Play clip.
Have you come to an agreement on state and local funding? No, and on liability?
No, we haven't.
Now, in order for a bipartisan deal to pass in the Senate, at least 13 Republican senators will need to join the Democratic senators in support of it. Pelosi was asked to comment on the odds of passing a broad stimulus package in the Senate.
I wondered how confident you were that 13 Republican senators would go over. There's been skepticism from Senate Majority Whips doing about not having enough. And then also, have you had discussions with Mnuchin about convincing Republican senators?
Let me say this. I'm not particularly interested in a bill that has 13 senators. We have to have strong bipartisanship on the legislation that we come together on. I would hope that we could have bipartisanship in the House and in the Senate. We've negotiated 4 of these bills. The last bill, the CARES Act, was a terrible bill. It was corporate trickle down. We had our bill take responsibility, and we brought it to bubble up. We didn't get everything we wanted. They still got their $150 billion for the richest people in America. But nonetheless, we got a bill that made, I think, a good difference. Not everything, but a good difference. So that's not, getting Republican votes is not my job, in case you didn't notice. That's up to them. That's up to them. And again, they know, I think they come to the table with some level of confidence that if we can reach an agreement that we can, the president wants a bill. The president wants a bill. And so that's part of the opportunity that we have.
Now, at the end of her press conference, Nancy Pelosi made it very clear that the House will not pass any kind of stimulus package unless it has the support of her colleagues on the Democratic Party and the committee chairs who drafted HEROES Act 2.0.
Yes, ma'am.
Forgive me on that. You say the president wants a deal. The president wants a deal until the minute he decides that he doesn't want a deal.
That's right.
So how do you...
It's called disarray. Mitch McConnell, the president,
And you're also running up against some logistics in terms of trying to get this, like you said, you still got things you got to work out on state and local. You still got things you got to work out, get pen to paper and get it done. So that comes up against actual election days. So is it more important to get it done before election day, or is it more important to get it done and you don't really care when that happens as long as it gets done? Like, are you willing to wait until after to get what you want, or do you need it before?
well, we're not going to agree to a bill that is not acceptable to my caucus and to my chairs who've effectively written the HEROES Act. I think we're talking about the same thing. It's only about time. Now, somebody may make a decision on their side that they don't want it before the election. I think it is in range for us to pass it before the election. But it's not up to me to decide what the Senate does. That's a conversation between the president and the majority leader. But we wouldn't take less of a bill to get it sooner. We want the best bill in range. And again, as I've said, and I'll end with this, what I say is help is on the way. It will be bigger, it will be better, it will be safer, and it will be retroactive. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thursday night, President Trump and Joe Biden faced off in the final presidential debate. Here's what the candidates had to say on the topic of stimulus negotiations.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work. And as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color. They see Washington fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House, because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President.
The Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
Let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass
Vice
it.
President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they could keep their cities and counties running. He will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with these guys?
The bill that was passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high-crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these states. It was also a way of getting a lot of money from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
If I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
Then Friday afternoon, President Trump held a press conference in the Oval Office. Steve Mnuchin was asked by one of the reporters about the status of his stimulus negotiations with Nancy Pelosi. Here's what he had to say.
Can I ask Secretary Mnuchin's in here. Mnuchin offer an update on stimulus talks with Speaker Pelosi?
I think we can. I think we can. Go ahead, Steve.
The President's been very clear in his instructions to me that if we can get the right deal, we're going to do that. We've been speaking to the Speaker. I would say we've offered compromises. The Speaker on a number of issues is still dug in. If she wants to compromise, there will be a deal. But we've made lots of progress in lots of areas, but there's still some significant differences that we're working
I mean,
through.
one of the big differences that and I said it last night loud and clear, she wants to bail out poorly run Democrat states. They're poorly run, both in terms of crime and in terms of economics. And we just don't want that. We want COVID related. But she wants to bail out poorly run Democrat states. And that's a problem because you're talking about tremendous amounts of money. And we don't want to reward areas of our country who have not done a good job. A lot of those areas have not done a good job on medical and COVID, frankly. If you look at New York and if you look at some others, it's been very rough. But we don't want to do that. Now we're talking and we'll see what happens, but at this moment I would say that I actually think Nancy would rather wait till after the election. She thinks it's a good point for the election, but I think it's against her because the American people know it's her that's stopping the money to going to them. So, I really believe it. I think she views it as a good election point, perhaps. She's, good for November 3rd. I'd like to see the people get the money. I don't think she wants the people to get the money before the election. I don't think that's a good point for her. But we want the people to get the money. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault. It was China's fault. The plague came in from China. Okay, and that's about it.
So that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, give it a like. If you don't want to miss any of my updates on the second stimulus check or the status of the stimulus package negotiations, make sure to hit that subscribe button below right now and click the bell notification icon. And as always, thank you for watching.